Welcome back, trainers, and we're finally going to take a look at the power of Conkeldurr. Unfortunately, I was not able to go up against specific raids because our current raid pool is not that great for Conkeldurr to show off the performance as far as just going up against a raid by itself and not have any Pokemon followed up behind it. But that's alright, I'll be bringing you those videos later on. We're going to actually go back and take it old school and look at Conkeldurr going up against gyms. Now, taking a look at my top Lucario, Conkeldurr, and Machamp, so we can do a comparison here. So the best Lucario that I do have is going to be at 14, 15, 13, and the DPS is going to be at 41.2 going up against raids. My Conkeldurr currently that I have has 13 attack, 12 defense, and then 13 stamina. I do have a 15, 15, 14, which I'm going to be maxing out fairly soon. And the DPS for this one is going to be sitting at 36.3. So if it did have 15 in attack, it might push it to the limit of 38, but I don't think it'll be quite there. And then taking a look at my 100% IV Machamp, its DPS is going to be 36.1. Now keep in mind, this is going to be with their best movesets for Lucario, Close Combat, Aura Sphere, for Conkeldurr, Counter, Dynamic Punch, and then same for Machamp. So as you can see, the Lucario is way outpacing them, even with the 14 in attack. And then the Conkeldurr is going to be slightly above Machamp. And then Machamp, you know, is going to be at the end there, but it's going to be the former king. It did serve us well, so it's not like we're going to just throw it to the curb and say we don't care about it anymore. Well, maybe some of you are. Personally, for myself, am I going to make a full team of Lucario? Eventually, but what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to make 4 Lucario. Well, that's what I actually have, 4 maxed out Lucario, and now I have the maxed out Conkeldurr, and then I'm going to make another one of those, so I'll have 4 Lucarios, and then followed up by 2 anchors at the end, which are going to be the Conkeldurrs. Now for the respected Pokemon for their specific moves in the same order, we're going to be taking a look here. So they all have a moveset to combat their weaknesses, and that is key here at what we want to look at. So to the far left, we have Lucario's moveset, Bullet Punch, Counter for the quick moves. For the charge moves, we have Aura Sphere, Close Combat, Flash Cannon, Shadow Ball, and Power Up Punch. Quite the move pool there. So if it did go up against a fairy type and say PvP, it will have moves to possibly combat that with Bullet Punch, Flash Cannon, as well as Shadow Ball. If it gets stuck up against a ghost type, well, that Shadow Ball is going to come in handy. As far as Conkeldurr in the middle, Counter and Poison Jab for the quick moves, charge moves, Stone Edge, Focus Blast, and Dynamic Punch. What do you want to run on yours if you currently have one or plan on making one? Without purchasing a secondary move, Counter and Dynamic Punch if you're using this solely to go up against raids. If you want a bit of coverage for PvP, you definitely want to have that Stone Edge for that secondary move on Conkeldurr, as it is going to give you coverage against those flyers, as well as possibly going up against ghost types. You will be able to hit it with neutral with the Stone Edge. Taking a look at Machamp, all the way to the right, we have Bullet Punch and Counter for the quick moves, Close Combat, Cross Chop, Dynamic Punch, Heavy Slam, and Rock Slide. So Machamp as well has moves that will combat those weaknesses like Fairy, as well as those flyers with the Rock Slide. And Machamp does have legacy moves, one being Stone Edge, so if you have one of those, pretty neat. We'll be going more into depth about PvP here in just a moment. Now, going up against raids, let's see where they do perform well. So we have Conkeldurr going up against a Tyranitar raid. It's going to be in that #1 spot. With Counter Dynamic Punch, time to win is going to be 225 seconds. It's going to take 8 of those. And then you have Lucario in that #2 spot with Counter and Aura Sphere. It's going to take 11 of those with a time to win of 221 seconds. So it's going to be about 4 seconds faster than Conkeldurr, but it is going to take less of those. And then Machamp is going to be followed up in that #3 spot, taking less than Lucario. It's going to take 9 Machamps with Counter and Dynamic Punch with a time to win of 237 seconds. So it is falling quite significantly behind. Going up against Regigigas, we have Lucario #1. It's going to take 49 of those with a time to win of 632 seconds. Conkeldurr, it's going to take 43 of those with a time to win of 643 seconds. So it is going to be falling just a little bit behind, about 10 seconds, 11 seconds slower than Lucario, but it is still going to be putting in work and taking less of those. Followed up by Breloom taking 49, and then as well as Machamp taking 49. So pretty interesting there with the Breloom taking as much as the Machamps, because Breloom's attack is pretty good. We're not really including this because it is a bit fragile, and if you're going to invest in a bunch of fighters, you might as well go with Lucario and or Conkeldurr. Now going up against Kyurem Black here, just a little fun for the future. We have Lucario it's going to take 26 of those with a time to win of 498 seconds. Conkeldurr, it's going to take 29 of those with a time to win of 530 seconds. So in this specific incident, you're going to see that Lucario is definitely going to be the winner for sure, with a time to win and also taking less Lucarios. And then Machamp is going to be in that number 4 spot. It's going to take 36 of those with a time to win of 583 seconds. So it's giving you a good idea here as to which fighters are going to be performing better here. All in all, Lucario is number 1. Let's get that out of the way. Let's go ahead and look at their DPS for probably like the 100th time here. So we have Lucario at the top with counter Aura Sphere with a DPS of 18.6, a TDO of 384, and a DPS times TDO of 2,480. Then Conkeldurr with counter Dynamic Punch sitting at 16.8. DPS TDO is going to be 501, so significantly better. But then if we look at the DPS times TDO for Conkeldurr, it's going to be at 2,401, so looks like Lucario is going to be winning in that aspect. Then if we bump down to Machamp with counter and Dynamic Punch, it's going to be sitting at DPS of 16.2. TDO for Machamp is going to be 436.6, and then DPS times TDO is going to be sitting at 1,851. So it's not looking so hot for that aspect on Machamp's end, but it did still serve us quite well in the past. Now taking a look at them all compared side to side with their stats here, the one with the highest attack is going to be Conkeldurr. But then when we look at defense, that is going to be going to Machamp, as a matter of fact. And then stamina is going to be going to Conkeldurr. And then the highest CP out of all of them is going to be Conkeldurr yet again. And the reason why Lucario is going to be so much better, even though its attack is lower than Conkeldurr, is because it does have Aura Sphere. And so what Aura Sphere is doing is getting off damage quicker. It's a lot faster in its animation compared to Dynamic Punch. Therefore, Lucario is going to be taking the win in that aspect. So what should you make? What Pokemon do you want to focus on? Well, Conkeldurr, if you do happen to have a lucky trade, you're only going to have to worry about getting candies to power it up. For Lucario, you're going to have to get the candies to evolve it and then power it up as well. So depending upon what you have at your disposal. Now looking in the Great League, as far as the top fighters here in an open league, we're going to see that Machamp is going to be coming in first, Lucario second, and then Conkeldurr at 129. So not so great in the Great League. So looking at Machamp, it's calling for counter, and then cross chop, and then close combat, then as well as that Legacy Stone Edge, and then Rock Slide there. So if you don't have a Stone Edge, then Rock Slide is going to be perfectly fine. Cross chop was a prior legacy, but now was reintroduced by Niantic, so you can TM into it now. But as far as the Great League is concerned, for an open league, Hitmontop and Medicham are going to still be your top Pokemon. Medicham, has always been really good in the Great League, and then Hitmontop does come in newly now because it did get a buff to close combat. And then taking a look at the Great League here, we have Machamp in that number 1 spot, and then Conkeldurr in the number 2. And then Lucario is going to be a little bit lower on the list here. Not saying that it's not going to be good. This is just the order in which the fighting are going to be appearing here. Now taking a look at Machamp yet again, the top counters are going to be Registeel, Snorlax, Regirock, Lapras, and Alolan Muck. Top counters against Conkeldurr are going to be Lugia, Gardevoir, Driftbloom, Togekiss, and Giratina Origin Form. So can you see why you need Stone Edge? If you had Poison Jab, super effective against Gardevoir. Stone Edge is going to be super effective to Lugia, as well as Driftbloom, and taking out those other Pokemon with a big chunk of health when it does hit it with Stone Edge. Now, taking a look at Master League, this is where Conkeldurr is going to be shining. Good against Dialga, Snorlax, Darkrai, Melmetal, and Tyranitar. Lugia, Togekiss, kind of the same counters as before against the Conkeldurr, but yes, it's going to be performing really well in the Master League. And then we have, of course, Machamp, and you're going to have the same counters and the counters against it as well as kind of the same as the Conkeldurr there. And then Lucario is going to be at that 68 spot. Still a good option because Shadow Ball is no joke. If they think you're going to hit him with a Power Punch, but all of a sudden you hit him with a Shadow Ball, well, you're going to be doing a ton of damage unless they're going to be a Dark type, in which case you're going to be hitting them with counter and doing a bunch of damage anyways. So I hope this helped you out in making a decision on which Pokemon, or at least which fighters you want to power up. At the moment, as it stands, what do you personally want to do? Say you don't have a ton of resources and you're sitting on just a few Machamps, and you're looking to invest in one of these new fighters, either Lucario or Conkeldurr. Well, the solid one is going to be Lucario for sure. Let's just get that out of the way. It is absolutely fantastic. As we see in the beginning, the DPS is far outpacing them, even with that lower attack IV. But what you really want to focus on is the resources it's going to take to power these up, as you may have already a bunch of Machamp candies lying around. Do you want to go and power up a bunch of Machamps? I wouldn't highly recommend it if you haven't done so already. If you're looking to power up new ones, definitely go with Lucario. But then again, Conkeldurr, if you do trade it, is going to cost you 0 candies to evolve it from Gurtier into Conkeldurr, so that's going to be a significant cut from the 100 that the other two do require for you to evolve them. Lucario, as it is already hard to get. You can only hatch them out of 7-kilometer eggs or 10-kilometer eggs, and then that is it. You can't find them in the wild, and you can't raid for them. But with Timber, you can go to those raids. You can get candies that way. You can possibly trade people that have a longer distance Pokemon away from you with a Timber, which will yield you more candies. So the choice is yours, whatever you prefer. But at the end of the day, Lucario is what you're going to want to invest in. And personally, for myself, how many Conkeldurrs am I going to make? And Lucarios, well, I'm going to make just 2 Conkeldurrs. That's it. There's no real need. If we have Lucario that is going to be outpacing it, sitting at 41 DPS compared to a 36, 37 DPS Conkeldurr, I'm definitely going to go with the Lucario. I want to do as much damage as possible. And then, of course, I'll have the 2 Conkeldurrs at the end. I'll have the 4 Lucarios, 2 Conkeldurrs, and I'll be looking golden. There is really no need to make a full team of them. If you're a big fan of this Pokemon, go for it. You know, do what you got to do. You know, I made about, I think, roughly around 15 Machamps powered up. So I have no judgment or anywhere to say how many you should make of whatever. But the safest and the strongest fighter is certainly going to be Lucario doing the most damage, but Conkeldurr is going to be one tough cookie that is going to be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer. Take a look at some of these old school style gym battles here. I was initially going to play it with just music, but I decided to do the commentary over it as well. Now, I do have a couple of EX raids coming up in the future in which Regigigas is still going to be here, and we're going to give it another shot in trying to duo that thing. So I have 4 Lucarios completely maxed out, and then by then I'll have my other Conkeldurr maxed out. And for now, let's go ahead and just take a look at my fighting arsenal and see what we have going on here. As you can see, a ton of those powered up Machamps. And then my newest addition, I just made this Conkeldurr today, this morning. So we did that lucky trade last night. Absolutely amazing. It wasn't a lucky friend, it was just a good chance, and it turned out to be a 15-15-14, in which I've already completely maxed out another one. We'll take a look at the IVs here. So taking a look at all my Lucarios, they're not all going to be the best IVs, but they're lucky, and I just decided to go with it. I needed them on hand immediately, so I went and powered them up, in which we were so close to duoing Regigigas before, but we were screwed over by the drift, unfortunately. So my 100% IV Machamp, which has served me very well. And then I have an arsenal of good IVs right behind it too. And if you're wondering, why did I power up so many Machamps? What is the point of that? Is it even necessary? Well, to go up against Dialga, you needed to re-lobby with a full team without reviving, and I needed to do those, in which, well, we successfully did it, and they served us well. So as you can see, going up against this raid here, or sorry, this gym, against the Venomoth, against the Salamence, and a few others, you're going to definitely need that Stone Edge, and that's why, and it will come in handy in that specific incident. Now, if you're going in PvP, if you go up against a Ghost type or a Flyer, that's not going to be part normal because they'll take neutral damage from your fighting, then Stone Edge is going to be coming in handy as well. You don't want to get stuck in that fight doing not very effective damage to something like, I don't know, a Venomoth. That's just like one of the worst case scenarios to be paired up against with a fighter because of the bug and poison, both of those resisting your fighting moves. So you definitely want it. It is going to be very expensive for the Conkeldurr's secondary move, because no matter what stage it's at, it's going to cost you 75,000 Stardust and 75 candies. Now, don't make the same mistake I did and be impatient and buy a secondary move on your Conkeldurr, and then you get a better one. So just go ahead and wait. If you're going to be using this to go up against raids, you don't really need that secondary move. If you're planning on PvPing, then you probably more than likely want that Stone Edge for sure. As far as going up against the Rocket leaders, Conkeldurr can prove to be okay, but you're also going to be looking at Lucario, which can burn shields a lot faster, as well as do a ton of damage too with Shadow Ball as well as Aura Sphere. So you may want to go ahead and invest in that. Now, speaking of that third or second move, you probably want to buy it on Lucario. When it is a Riolu, it will cost you a whole lot less. It is not much whatsoever. So make sure you buy that secondary move on Riolu before you do evolve it into Lucario. Otherwise, you're going to have to cough up 75,000 Stardust and 75 candies, which is going to be a bit pricey. And then as far as Machamp, well, you know, it's still Machamp. It still does what it needs to do, but now we have better ones, and more than likely you're going to want to start investing in those instead of the Machamps. Now, what are the moves that you want on these? You want counter all around for the quick moves on all of them. For Lucario, it really depends. Aura Sphere is going to be definitely good if you have that secondary move unlocked, or third move, I guess you can call it. It really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're using it for Rocket leaders, then you're probably going to want to have Power Up Punch. If you're going into PvP, you may want to go with Shadow Ball. For Conkeldurr, it's fairly simple. Counter, Dynamic Punch, Stone Edge. Simple as that. But Lucario can be a bit tricky when it comes down to the moves you want for specific things that you're doing. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, trainers, and I'll be bringing you a whole lot more revolving around Conkeldurr. Take care.